I just want to follow on the comments that were being articulated by the senator from Vermont. He's done an excellent job in laying out these issues for the American people to deliberate upon this week as we debate the budget of the United States of America. Right now, millions of Americans are gripped by March Madness and the Final Four showdown. But for our nation's seniors and the middle class, the real March Madness is happening right now with the proposed Republican budget. Our country isn't like the big dance. America was not built on a zero-sum game where one side wins and the other side loses. But that's exactly what this Republican budget does. It picks winners and it picks losers. So let's take a look at the GOP's budget bracket. The Republican Final Four features their perennial favorites. In the first game, they have seniors versus special interests. Well, in this Republican budget, it removes 11 million families from Medicaid, including 400,000 seniors in my state of Massachusetts alone. It turns Medicare into a voucher program. It forces millions of seniors, including 80,000 in Massachusetts, who receive Medicare, to pay $1,000 more for their prescription drugs next year. And it does all of this while preserving tax breaks for special interests like deductions for corporate jets and for shipping jobs overseas. And the budget preserves billions for atomic bombs of the past supported by the defense industry, which is why I introduced legislation today to cut $100 billion over 10 years from our bloated nuclear weapons program. And so, no surprises yet. In the GOP budget bracket, special interests advance and seniors lose. So that's the first match. Seniors lose. Not unexpected. In the next game, it's a battle of generations. It's the old guard of Wall Street against the new blood of our nation, students. So what does the GOP budget do? Well, it cuts 8 million Pell Grants for college students by almost 1/3, making college less affordable for millions of young people and their families. It yanks 100,000 children from the Head Start program over the next 10 years. And it does all that while not meeting the needs of the Wall Street cops on the beat at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And it puts Americans at risk from predatory lenders and credit card scams by continuing the GOP effort to kill the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So in the battle between the Wall Street boardrooms and America's classrooms, it's the big money over the little guy yet again. In the next David versus Goliath matchup, it's America's working families against billionaires. Surely the spirit and character of America's working families is deserving of a win. But there's no Cinderella story here with the Republican budget. That's because it kicks nearly 900,000 families off of low-income energy assistance. So families will need to decide between heating and eating. This budget includes $660 billion in cuts over the next decade to federal programs that lift up our most vulnerable, like food stamps, school lunches, school nutrition programs, slashed. According to the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, 69% of non-defense cuts included in the House and Senate budget resolutions come from these programs that serve the poor, the sick, the needy in our society. And this budget sticks to the Republican policy of not increasing the minimum wage, keeping millions of Americans who want to get into the middle class out of the game. And are the billionaires asked to do more with less? Do they have any tax breaks taken away? Do they pay a little more to make sure the less fortunate are better off? No. The Republican refs make sure that the playing field remains tilted in their favor. It's another win for the rich. And now, the matchup we've all been waiting for. It's the big oil juggernaut against clean energy and climate change. In a Republican Senate, big oil is undefeated. But can upstart American clean energy companies pull out a win? Well, the Republican budget protects billions of dollars in subsidies to the oil companies while killing the wind energy tax credit. The Republican unwillingness to extend the tax credit has already cost us 30,000 American jobs in the last few years. Republicans continue to deny the existence of climate change by stopping funding to protect communities against sea level rise and stronger storms, even though 2014 was the warmest year on record and extreme weather impacted every part of the country. And it does all this while handing over more of our public land to big oil and coal companies instead of preserving it for all Americans. So, who's the winner? No surprise. Big oil. They keep all their tax breaks, even as we're taking money away from seniors, from students, from working families, from a clean energy future in our country. No surprise, because when you have the Republican budget, Final Four, special interests, Wall Street, billionaires, and big oil, the fix was in from the start. Unlike the March Madness games we love to watch each year, there are never any upsets in the Republicans' bracket. There are no budget buzzer beaters. In fact, the only ones upset here are grandma, grandpa, students, clean energy workers, and hard-working Americans. Senate Republicans, once again, are trotting out their well-worn playbook to pick the winners and losers in our society and in our economy. Because in this budget, there are clear winners and there are clear losers. Special interests score huge on big tax breaks. Wall Street gets to block regulation. Billionaires take a bigger share of the winnings, and big oil remains undefeated. Meanwhile, American families and industries lose. Seniors pay more for health care. Working families pay more for energy. Students pay more for college. Clean energy companies cut more workers, stopping this incredible clean energy revolution in our country. This is the real March Madness, the Republican budget that makes winners out of big oil and billionaires while the clock runs out on seniors and hardworking Americans who are left to fend for themselves. I implore my colleagues to reject this scheme and to create a plan that does not bust the budgets of families across this nation. I call upon my colleagues to reject this completely and totally distorted sense of priorities for our country. I call for my colleagues to put together for the future of our country that invests in students, invests in clean energy, invests in research, invests in what the 21st century should be all about, while we pay the proper respect to our seniors in our country. We cannot leave the poor and the sick and the elderly behind. We have obligations in this country. We understand that this country has been made the great country it is, the greatest in the history of the world, by remembering our obligations to all of those that built our country. Not just those in the upper 1 percentile who have been the primary beneficiaries, but the other 99% who got up every single morning and went to work as well. The other 99% who built this country and its values from the ground up. We have an obligation to them as well. This Republican budget does not reflect that. I urge a no vote on the Republican budget, and I again want to thank my colleague from the state of Vermont for being an articulate, passionate, moral voice that ensures that this debate is heard by every single person in our country. And, Mr. President, I yield back the balance of my time.